Welcome to this epic explainer. Over the last couple of years, the way we write software has, frankly, completely changed. And look, we aren't just talking about a smarter spell check here. We're talking about a literal paradigm shift in the developer workspace. Today, we're doing a massive, comprehensive, documentary-style deep dive, covering every single detail from over 60 different sources. We're getting into the war for the workspace, GitHub Copilot, the fierce competition, and the true cost of AI coding. Let's jump right in.
So let's kick things off with a pretty harsh reality from our sources. Autonoma AI puts it incredibly bluntly, stating, neither tool produces correct code by default. That gap is where production bugs live. Right? I mean, the AI coding arms race is moving at breakneck speed. These tools are generating plausible code faster than humanly possible, but as the source material makes absolutely clear, blindly trusting them is a recipe for disaster. Both Copilot and its rivals have gotten amazingly good at generating code, but honestly, neither has inherently gotten better at verifying it.
Act 1. The AI coding war. Okay, so GitHub Copilot, which started out as basically a smarter autocomplete, is now a reigning monarch, and it is currently under heavy siege. The question for your engineering team is no longer, hey, should we use AI? It's now, which philosophy of AI native development are we going to bet everything on? Because we're seeing a massive philosophical clash right now between GitHub Copilot and Cursor. Copilot takes this really conservative plugin-first approach. It embeds safely into your existing enterprise ecosystem across multiple IDEs, VS Code, Visual Studio, JetBrains, Xcode, Azure Data Studio. The whole point is it doesn't force your engineers to abandon their favorite editor. Cursor, on the flip side, demands that you switch entirely over to its environment, which is a modified version of VS Code. It is not going to work as a plugin for JetBrains or NeoVim. But in exchange for that editor lock-in, Cursor gives you a high-ceiling autonomous experience with total model flexibility and these really powerful multi-file agent modes.
But wait, there's a wild card here. Claude Code has officially entered the chat, or rather the terminal. According to our deep dive into the sources, a lot of developers are actually starting to use Copilot in their IDE for standard daily coding, but then they pivot to Claude Code right in the terminal for those heavy multi-step agentic workflows. By running directly in the command line, Claude Code completely bypasses that whole editor lock-in debate we just talked about. It captures those intense agent sessions without making you ditch your preferred IDE setup. It's a fascinating strategy.
Act 2, Copilot's ecosystem evolution.
Now, to survive this multi-front war, Copilot has rapidly mutated way beyond just basic inline code completion. Microsoft and GitHub have poured resources into expanding Copilot's capabilities across the entire development lifecycle. The arsenal is vast now. We're talking an ecosystem-wide chat interface that works not just in your IDE, but directly on GitHub.com and even on the GitHub mobile app. It's got CLI tools that can explain and generate terminal commands by taking in the full context of your repository. You get pull request difference analysis, the ability to spin up unit tests with a simple / command, and even web search, powered by Bing, to pull in the latest documentation. It genuinely understands the deep relationships within your codebase now.
Act 3. The pivot to usage billing.
But here's the catch. Powering all these complex, agentic workflows requires staggering amounts of compute, and that reality has forced GitHub into a pretty controversial structural pricing pivot. Copilot just isn't the same product it was a year ago, and giving everyone unlimited access to these heavy features, it's just not sustainable anymore. Now, if we just look at baseline costs, Copilot still holds a massive 2x price advantage over Cursor. For individuals, Copilot Pro is $10 a month, compared to Cursor's $20. For teams, Copilot Business is $19 per user, while Cursor Business leaps to $40. Copilot even offers a $39 enterprise tier with full GitHub.com integration, audit logs, and that highly sought-after IP indemnification. So yeah, the sticker price looks great for Copilot, but the underlying mechanics of how you actually pay for that usage, that is fundamentally changing.
So, the absolutely crucial thing to understand here is the transition timeline. Before May 2026, billing was driven by premium request units, or PRUs. And if you exhausted those, the system would just gracefully fall back to a lower-cost model so you could keep working without interruption. But to maintain long-term reliability and align their pricing with actual compute costs, GitHub is completely abandoning that model. In early May, admins are going to get a preview bill to help them project upcoming costs. Then, on June 1, 2026, Copilot makes a hard, full transition to usage-based billing driven entirely by GitHub AI credits.
Under this completely new system, your usage relies strictly on token consumption. Input, output, and cached tokens will actively drain your GitHub AI credits based on published API rates. There are zero model fallbacks anymore. Once you run out of credits, or if you hit an admin budget cap, your heavy usage is gated. Done. Now, the good news? Standard code completions and next edit suggestions do remain free and won't touch your credits. However, heavy features like Copilot Code Review will now drain GitHub Actions minutes simultaneously, so you are literally paying for both the AI compute and the workflow execution time. Honestly, if you aren't careful, that is a very quick way to give your finance department a heart attack.
Act 4, the open source IP battle. Beyond the financial cost of all this compute, there is a very dark legal cloud hanging over the unprecedented speed of this AI generation. The Supervisory law firm, acting on behalf of open source programmers, has launched a major class action lawsuit. In their complaint, they assert, and I quote, Microsoft apparently is profiting from others' work by disregarding the conditions of the underlying open source licenses. The core allegation here is that Copilot, which was trained on billions of lines of publicly available code, is unlawfully treating licensed code as if it were simply sitting in the public domain.
Now we're looking at this totally impartially, based on the sources. GitHub and Microsoft's leadership have stated publicly that training machine learning systems on public data firmly constitutes fair use. However, this litigation challenges that directly. It raises massive claims, ranging from breach of contract to breach of privacy under the California Consumer Privacy Act for allegedly sharing personally identifiable information. This lawsuit marks a critical industry-wide chapter. It's going to determine whether training ML systems on public data truly is fair use, or if it's a massive breach of privacy and contract. The outcome here will absolutely shape the future of all AI tools.
Act 5, the productivity experience paradox.
Okay, so setting aside the legal jeopardy and the billing pivots for a second, academic studies reveal a newly discovered psychological toll on the actual software engineers using these tools every single day. Let's start with the good stuff. An incredible 84% of developers perceive an immediate, highly tangible boost in their output and productivity when using AI coding assistance. And that completely aligns with industry surveys across the board. But researchers conducted a mixed methods longitudinal study over 6 months with professional engineers, and the data uncovers a hidden and, frankly, disturbing long-term trend.
Researchers have actually coined this the productivity experience paradox. So over a 6-month period, looking at 95 professional developers, their perceived productivity remained high and stable, but the overall developer experience degraded significantly. The number of developers reporting worsened perceptions in their daily experience jumped from 14% to 27%. Specifically, developers noted that their deeply focused flow state was steadily declining, and their cognitive load was actually worsening due to the sheer friction of interacting with the AI.
So, what is actually happening here? Well, the researchers identified a massive shift from traditional coding to what they call supervisory engineering. Developers are shifting away from deep, uninterrupted creation. Instead, they're falling into this fragmented, high-friction rhythm. They spend their days directing the AI, waiting around for its output, evaluating that output, and then painstakingly correcting its errors. So all that time you saved writing boilerplate code, it's just being reallocated directly into this mentally taxing supervisory work.
Act 6, the verdict on verification. And that psychological shift, combined with the lingering, undeniable potential for production bugs we talked about earlier, brings us right back to the ultimate battleground of the AI coding war. Because as we established right at the top, neither Copilot nor Cursor produces correct code by default. The true differentiator for an engineering team isn't actually the AI generating the code. The differentiating factor is the automated testing loop validating it. The team that wins, regardless of which tool they use, is the team that closes the verification loop, and not just with manual human review, which we now know causes severe cognitive fatigue, but with automated testing that actually runs the application and validates the behavior.
So I want to leave you with this final high-stakes question to consider for your own workspace. As you navigate the editor lock-in debates, the new usage-based billing models, the IP lawsuits, and the heavy cognitive load of supervisory engineering, in the rush to adopt these tools, are you just paying for faster AI generation, or are you actually building the rigorous verification processes needed to survive the transition? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Think critically about your stack, and I'll catch you next time.